Good morning. My name is Keith Shannon. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at SNS Activewear, and I just want to say thank you for joining us here today. For those of you who were with us in February, welcome back. For those of you who missed our last virtual event, we're glad to have you here. In our first virtual trade show, we had more than 5,000 participants, and we are thrilled to say that today is no different. Thank you so much for all of your support and for taking valuable time out of your day to be here. Our format today is a little different from last time. We will have fewer sessions being conducted on the main stage, which will give you more time to spend with our brand partners in their virtual booths. The brands will be focusing mainly on new products being introduced for 2022, along with some of their most popular styles. There will be plenty to glean from all the great information they will be sharing with you today. However, before I send you away to meet with all of our wonderful partners, I want to take a few minutes to update you on some of the things we talked about back in February. The 3 points I want to touch on are inventory levels, market pricing, and labor constraints. For those of you who joined us at our last virtual event in February, you will remember we talked a bit about the stresses of the business through 2020 and into 2021. As we sat here in February, I think most of us were full of optimism that the manufacturers would have improved from an inventory perspective more so than they've been able to do to date. The impact of COVID continues to permeate throughout the entire supply chain. Manufacturers have had to reconfigure production lines and the way they build product. The labor shortages they are facing in their distribution centers are no different than what all of us are coping with. And the challenges they are confronted with in terms of port backups and the transportation shortages, well, the hits just keep on coming. As we sit here in November of 2021, we find ourselves in a very similar inventory position to what we saw back in February, where the available supply is significantly less than the day-to-day demand. That said, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We do have some brands where inventory levels are a bit better than others, and even the biggest brands who have been working so hard to get us back in stock are showing signs of improvement. We are receiving inventory into our network at rates never seen before. However, the challenge remains that the growth in the demand continues to outpace the increased amounts of inbound inventory. Looking ahead into the first half of next year, we believe inventory availability will continue to be a challenge, perhaps even into Q3. Brands such as Gildan, Hanes, Fruit of the Loom, Jerseys, Bella & Canvas, and Next Level will likely continue to struggle meeting the increased demands of the marketplace, even though many of them are currently producing at all-time peak levels. SNS has always been very collaborative with our vendor partners. We have continued to forecast bullishly, and we have continued to give our vendors orders well in advance of our expected needs. And we will continue working with them to do everything we can to build our inventories back to the levels you are accustomed to seeing from us. We built our business these past 30 years on having deep inventory, and that philosophy has not changed. It's just going to take some work to get us back there. As I mentioned in our last conversation, we are fortunate to have a good amount of redundancy in our product offering across all the brands we carry. So hopefully a silhouette that can't be found from one of the brands is available in another. So plan as early as possible and make sure you present options to your customers on the front end so it is easier to make those substitutions when you are faced with inventory shortages. The next thing I want to talk about is pricing. Over the past 3 to 5 months, all of you have seen price increases in the market. The brands and the manufacturers are facing steep increases in their input costs that go well beyond the normal fluctuations they would see in the course of a year. On top of increased raw material costs such as cotton and polyester, manufacturers are dealing with increased energy costs, increased labor costs, and perhaps most impactful, transportation costs. Getting the product from the manufacturing facilities into the US has never been more costly than it is today. Manufacturers are dealing with freight costs that are 5 to 10 times their normal levels. As I said, there have been price increases taking place over the last 3 to 5 months, with the largest set of increases taking place in September and in October. And while we have no firm notification from any of our brand partners, there is a strong likelihood that you will see another round of price increases towards the end of this year or early 2022. And while we will do our best to communicate increases before they happen, many are taking place with very short notice. And with such short notice and short supply of inventory on hand, wholesalers need to react more quickly than ever. We know this adds another layer of stress on an already stressful situation, and we will do whatever we can to help mitigate the impact. The last thing I want to talk about is labor and how that is affecting us, specifically at S&S. While we have not had to change our same-day shipping cutoff times at this point, we continue to monitor our service levels, and we will continue doing everything possible to make sure we are getting orders out same day, as you would expect. However, as seasonal demand increases and the labor pool remains tight, we may need to shift cutoff times to earlier in the day, as we want to make sure we are setting the right expectations for you and your customers. Over the past year, we have significantly increased wages in our warehouses. We continue to develop career paths for our employees, and we are getting as creative as we can, like many of you, to not only onboard new employees, but to retain our current employees who are the bedrock of our team. As I have talked to a number of customers, I know many of you are facing a similar situation. As we said when we talked in February, there's nothing more frustrating than seeing the business return and not being able to service it, whether it be because of inventory or because of capacity constraints. Ultimately, we want you to know that we understand and empathize with how stressful the business continues to be on many fronts. We will continue to do everything we can to be the best partners possible, to have the best inventory levels possible, and to provide the best service in the market. Even though much of what I covered seems to be a bit of doom and gloom, I think our industry is in a good place. I think our industry is growing. We believe that next year will be another strong year, and we are optimistic that things will improve. We are so grateful for the partnerships we have with our customers, our vendors, and of course, our employees. We have shared in success during the good times and fought together through the tough times, and we look forward to continuing those relationships for years to come. So, thank you once again for joining us today. We hope that the time spent with us yields new ideas, provides inspiration, and helps you in growing your business. Enjoy the show.